Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Art of Creation Homestead. My name is Jason, and at this time of year, obviously, daylight is waning. There's fewer hours of daylight. It's getting cooler, and for chicken keepers like ourselves, people who adore their chickens, but also adore those beautiful eggs that we get from those chickens, that can be a problem. Because of this. Shaggy chickens. Yes, this time of year, chickens start to molt, right? They're losing their feathers, as you can see, that girl right there. They're getting kind of shaggy. They lose their feathers and regrow their feathers, and they need that. They need this break. But also there's less daylight hours, so even if they're not starting to molt yet, there's less hours of daylight, which means they're going to lay less eggs. The chickens need 14 hours of daylight or more to be at their optimal laying. This time of year, we're about, what, 12? 12 and a half, I'm not sure where we're at. So that's another issue as well. But they start to molt, mostly. And so they're not going to be laying eggs at that point in time. Most of the time. So what that does, it creates an issue. Because I love eggs. I want to eat eggs constantly. I eat 3 eggs pretty much every morning before I go to work Monday through Friday. And we'll use them for baking. We'll use them in our supper sometimes. We'll use them on the weekends as well. So we use a lot of eggs, right? And obviously at least 15. Closer to 2 dozen, probably not quite 2 dozen a week. But they're delicious eggs. They're organic eggs. They're super rich eggs. They're delicious, right? But I'm not gonna have as many right now because they're not laying as many. But again, we've had a lot of eggs throughout the year. So how do I get those eggs from July to where I can eat them in December and January? That is the problem that a lot of people deal with is like, I've got all these chickens back here, I'm paying to feed them, and feed costs obviously went up in the past year, like everything else. So I've paid for these eggs. We've had a lot of eggs throughout the year. I mean, those chickens, those girls, which we well documented, laid great this year. Just wonderful on this feed that we've got, but the feed's more expensive, so I've paid for these eggs. I had an overabundance of eggs, May through July especially, but I'm gonna have a shortage of eggs, essentially November through January. Again, how do we solve that problem? And it is a problem because we got these 2 eggs today. We got this egg yesterday. These 3 girls are the only ones laying eggs, and only about every other day. This one maybe 2 days in a row. These 2 every other day. So we're gonna have Angela Kay come over here, and she's gonna talk about something that people are doing a lot of that may be very, very fine and good, no problems with it, but why that may not work for us. Because the thing is, water glassing eggs. We were gonna do it. We were buying the stuff so we could set up to do it. But then we started doing just checking into it and understanding what we're going to be doing and what the process is. And so we're going to talk about why we're not water glassing our eggs.
Water glassing is a process where you take lime, like pickling lime, food grade essentially. Or some people will also use the stuff that you use for masonry. You take lime and you mix it with distilled water, and you layer your eggs in a bucket, which we have been using this bucket for something else.
This is a 1 gallon bucket that we had bought for this process, and now we just decided to use it for picking.
And you carefully layer your eggs in the bucket in a solution of lime and distilled water. You have to be very careful in the eggs that you select. You have to select ones that are not porous, very clean.
Not washed.
Not washed at all.
Right.
Very clean. And no debris on them at all.
Which, by the way, is essentially like these eggs right here. Just wipe them off a little bit, and they're good. These are good eggs for water glassing.
They cannot be a thinner, porous shell because the lime will leach in. They have to be a very hard-shelled egg. You have to be super selective with the eggs that you pick. They have to be pretty close to perfect.
Right. Yeah.
Which isn't always an easy thing because not all hens lay perfect eggs.
Sure don't.
We have some hens that all they lay is very porous shells.
And thin shelled.
And thinner shell.
Yeah.
And you cannot use those.
No.
But if you do choose to water glass, those eggs can last for
A couple of years, some people say. Right?
Some people say a couple years.
Right.
But there are some things you have to go through. This can irritate your skin very badly.
Yeah.
And if you are like me and you are outside in cold weather a lot and things like that of the winter, your hands already tend to get dry.
Yeah.
Well, this can dry your skin extremely bad. So you really need to wear gloves.
So you'd have to wear gloves every time you dealt with it?
Yes. Every morning when I would, because you have to take that. The process is when you use the eggs that have been water glassed, you have to leave them in the water glass solution until you are ready to use them. When you are ready to use them, you take them out, which you would have to put on gloves to take them out. You will have to wash them thoroughly because you have to get all that lime off.
And beyond thorough, probably.
If you leave any lime at all, then it's going to cause stomach irritation.
Well, if you leave the lime and that lime gets in the egg as the egg yolk as the egg comes out of the shell, right? Yeah.
Then you can have stomach irritation.
Right.
And it can make you pretty sick to your stomach. And when you crack it, you have to smell it. Don't crack it straight into the skillet or straight into whatever. You have to smell it. Mm-hmm. If you smell any traces of lime, or if it looks funny in any way, then you know lime has seeped in. Mm-hmm. And that egg will make you very sick to your stomach.
Okay, so that being said, see, Angela goes through this whole process, right? She'll go through the whole process, doing all this pickling, or using the pickling lime, and putting the eggs in there. But then every stinking morning, right? Every morning when she gets up to fix eggs for me, for work, or when she needs to go bake something, or right before supper, or whenever she's using these eggs, she has to put gloves on her hands, go where we got them stored at, get the eggs out, come over here, wash them off extremely thoroughly, and hope, and then hope that she didn't get any lime on them, on those eggs, right? And then take the gloves off, do this. It creates a massive time crunch problem, but also just an annoyance for using these eggs. Because, like, yes, we want to preserve the eggs, and yes, we want to have these beautiful eggs to eat, and yes, I enjoy them, and all these things is true, but this whole process to go through seems to be a bit much. And also, in my opinion, it takes our lovely, beautiful organic eggs that we've worked hard to keep organic, and it makes them non-organic anymore because you put them in a lime solution. And that to me is a problem as well. But we still need to preserve them. So, Angela, what are you doing in order to preserve these eggs?
So instead of water glassing, I have decided to freeze the eggs. Now, when you freeze eggs, you do not want to freeze them whole because then the yolk gets a little weird. You want to freeze them scrambled. So you cannot use these as fried eggs anymore.
It has to be emulsified completely.
It has to be, you can only use these in something where you would use a beat up egg, like baked goods or scrambled eggs.
But it has to be emulsified completely in order to store, right?
Yes. So what I do, because mostly we use eggs in 2 egg or 3 egg increments. So what you do, you take your eggs, I break them one at a time, and I put them in a bowl, lightly scramble them. You do not want to create a lot of foam. As you can see, there's a little bit of foam there, but not a whole lot. Crazy. You don't want to create a lot of foam. So you want to very lightly scramble, and then I pour them into a bag. This is in 3 egg, this is in 2 egg, and I lay them flat. After I seal them up, get out as much air as you possibly can, I flatten them out, and I freeze them flattened out like this. That way they will store easier in your freezer. Then all I have to do the night before or the day before, put these in the refrigerator. By the next morning, they'll be completely thawed, and then I can just whip up some scrambled eggs or use them in a cake or whatever.
So that process made a lot more sense to us. So, like, again, when Angela uses eggs, and typically anybody who's baking or cooking, you're going to use 2, 3, 4, or 6 eggs at a time. So if you need 2 or 4 eggs, you take the 2 egg bag. If you need 3 or 6 eggs, you take the 3 egg bags, right? It made total sense to us and really made that process a lot simpler for us. And these eggs can't be stored as long, but we don't need to store them for a year, 2 years. We need to store them for a few months. So we took the eggs from July, basically, and we did this with these eggs. They'll still store 6 months. So we just needed eggs from July to make it to January. That's all we needed, really. So the process is simpler. I don't mind eating scrambled eggs. and you can still use those for baking. So if you're making a cake, Angela makes delicious cheesecakes. Ask her to make you a video, please, because I can eat the cheesecake then. But she makes all kinds of delicious baked goods. You've seen the recipes. You knew how good she can cook, right? So let's just use them like this. It makes a lot more sense to us. It makes the process simpler. And nobody wants a big pain in the butt headache at 6 o'clock in the morning trying to wash off limed eggs with gloves on your hands. That's not fun, right? So this whole process made more sense to us, and I feel it's a little safer as well. So this right here is why we are not water glassing eggs. It's not that water glassing is a problem. It's not that water glassing doesn't work. It's that water glassing doesn't work for our situation. So before you water glass your eggs, I would suggest that you think about your process, think about everything that you got to go through to use your eggs, and see if that actually works into your life or not, or if it's just going to cause you problems for no reason at all. All right, thank you guys so much for watching. We do appreciate it. My name is Jason. That's Angela K. This is Art of Creation Homestead. We love y'all. God bless you, and goodbye.